Hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Patrick.
We're the Galinskis, and we've got this.
Hey guys, I'm Pat Galinsky, and Michelle is operating the camera currently. This is a little how-to video on the restoration of our tavern table. Now this table we bought in 1997. We bought it because we built a reproduction home in Eastham on Cape Cod in 1997. It was a gorgeous home. I still wish we had it today. So this table has seen far better days. You can see all the scratches and staining on it. All the protection on this table is basically beeswax over bare wood, which, as you can see, really doesn't hold up that well. It does have a cool patina, but that's not the look we're going for. Now, this table was built in England and shipped here. When they built it, they used old English boards, and that's what we loved about it when we saw it at the antique store in Chatham, Massachusetts, and we fell in love with it. Back in '97, we only paid $600 for this table. It's worth a lot more than that today. So what we'd like to do with this table is kind of a theme that we're doing here. We've built a couple pieces of really interesting furniture. Last year, we built this sideboard or sofa table piece out with our friend Tim McClellan in Arizona. And you can see it's absolutely beautiful. We love it. But you can see the old board on top, and we have this kind of grayish white stained theme on the outside and the legs. And I think we're going to try to mimic a little bit of that on our table. We're going to sand the entire top down, and then we're going to sand the sides and the legs, and try to do that staining theme on the legs and the side pieces here. And then we're going to clear the whole thing with a satin lacquer clear to give it a lot of protection. This is a pretty big task for us to do today, but I think we're going to get this done in just one day. Let's talk about tools. Now, most everyone has average tools like this Phillips head screwdriver. But trust me, when you're removing about 30 screws, you want to use the screw gun. So let's go underneath and take a look about how to remove this tabletop. Sometimes you got to get on the floor and get dirty. All right, so you can see it's kind of interesting, very basic. They dadoed this groove in the outer rail, and they just made these little wood clips. So all we're going to do is just loosen up the screws a little bit. Okay, now is the time to do the job. We're going to do that. Michelle's going to start some sanding. She loves sanding. So we have our orbital sander, and we have different grits, and I don't know what one we're going to really use till we start. We have a 40, which is really aggressive. That's like rocks. I don't think we're going to use that. I usually use 60, and then as a finisher, we'll probably use 150. But we're starting with 60 right now, and we're going to start just to see what happens in this quadrant. So Michelle's going to turn around. Let's go. So we're deep into the sanding part of this table, but you can see Michelle's done a wonderful job on the top. And it reveals, when they built this, they must have used white epoxy of some sort, but it doesn't look bad. Kind of looks neat. They filled all the voids in with epoxy, and there's still some crevices which we'll leave to kind of be nice. But this is the coarser paper. We're going to switch to a 150 on this. So now it's time for me to sand the base. I've already started on this leg, and you can see I've gone through actually one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it gets gummed up pretty easily. But that's part of it because this has 20 years of dust and whatever in here, plus the old wax is in there. So we're going to sand this up by hand. It doesn't really take that long. And this is 80 grit paper. We're going to use a finer paper, something in the 120 to finish it off. But that's what you got to do if you want to restore something. Got to get dirty, got to get your hands in here. All right, so we're at the final part of the process of, we prepped it, and Michelle added some light gray stain to accent it. It looks really nice. And now she just did this post with a white stain, almost like a glazing. And she's doing this one right now. Michelle, why don't you just tell them how you're doing this?
So I'm basically just wiping it on. It's kind of like a glaze. And then I'm just going over and wiping it off. It's kind of like a whitewash.
Yep.
And it's just to take away some of the darkness of the gray. Actually, you can see really good on this leg how the upper part of the leg is still the gray without the white. And then how the whitewash changes the color.
Yeah.
Just to give it a kind of more of a, for us, a beachy look to go with the rest of our decor.
And after she's done with the legs, we're going to flip it over and do these styles here, and then it will be ready for the clear process. So I want to show you a video of what it looks like to be prepped and stained before it's cleared. And I got to tell you, we are both so impressed with how it looks before it's even cleared. Michelle did a wonderful job sanding it with 2 grits, and then I went with some 220 by hand just to really make it smooth. But all these knots really pop. But more so, if we look at the structure, the legs and the styles, it's like, wow, this was so much work to dig out wax out of every groove by hand and then sand it with 80 grit and then 120 and 220. But you know, you put the time in and it makes it look fantastic. So then afterwards, Michelle, the artist, put on a coat of gray stain, and I took some 220 and sanded it to reveal some of the wood highlights. And then she put on like a white glazing over that, just very subtle glazing. So when this thing is cleared, we're going to have a similar theme to that piece over there we showed you earlier. And they're going to look great together. So I can't wait till tomorrow morning when we get this thing cleared, get it back in the house. All right, it's the moment of truth where we are spraying the clear today. Now, what I'm using is a product by Deft. It's a clear wood finish. This actually is made for brushing, but what you do is you thin it down with lacquer thinner so you can spray it, and it dries really fast. I didn't want the water-based one. I wanted the lacquer-based one because I know all about spraying lacquer. So on a project, make sure you take your tack rag. Now, I already tacked this. I want to show you how much dust I pulled off of this thing. When using a tack rag, light finger pressure. You don't want this to be pushed into the surface because there's actually oils in this. And you don't want to transfer the oils. All you're trying to do is pick up dust. Time for coat number 2. Now, coat number 1 is always a tack coat. Tack meaning you just put a light coat on. You don't want to saturate it, and that allows it to get absorbed into the wood and build your base for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th coats, and so on. But it might be hard to see in the video, but it's striping. So basically, when I put my first tack coat on, heavy, light, heavy, light, and that's very normal. That's usually how it goes on your first coat. Now, in the second coat, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to put it on heavier. So we're going to go this way to try to even it out. And let's do that right now. All right, we got 3 coats on this top so far. It's actually starting to get a little bit of a sheen. Now, it's got a little bit of roughness to it, so that's when you break out the 1500 grit sandpaper. I've already sanded lightly this corner here, nice and smooth. So when you're clearing something, you want to give a couple coats of clear, let it dry, hit it with some very fine paper, tack rag it, put a couple more on, the rest will be smooth, just like that. Okay, we're done. This is the final part of this project. We're putting the top, screwing it back to the base. But take a look at what we did with this top. 5 coats of lacquer on here. We put 3 on, let it dry, then I took some sandpaper, as you saw earlier, got all the nubs off, 2 more coats. It looks really nice. Now we're going to reassemble the top by screwing on those clips.
Oh, there's Winnie,
Winnie's going to help us, right,
our
Winston?
faithful assistant.
Oh. So now I have to put all these clips back on. Whoops. All right, the final process is we're going to put some wax on it, and my buddies at McKee's 37 makes the greatest wax products in the country. The Fast Wax is a carnauba-based wax, which is wonderful because you spray it on and you just wipe it off. The nice thing is the carnauba wax that they make is one of the few waxes in the world that allows the freshly sprayed product to still dry through the wax. The wax does not stop the drying process of the lacquer, which is great because normally you don't want to wax something for about 30 days after you paint it. We take that and we take our buffing towel and wipe it over. It's going to give you a nice slick finish, protecting it, and actually enhance the gloss a little bit. I can already see it myself. Now we're going to do the rest of the table. And this fast wax you can use on virtually anything. It's made for, obviously, car restoration, but I use it on my refinishing for when I do kitchens and bathrooms. We use it on our countertops, and they have other products at mckeys37.com that have specifically products geared for your kitchens and bathrooms in your home. Carolina home and patio products.
RVs.
Boats. Just about anything, they got it all. We'll wrap this up here. So this is pretty much completing our first project. And I think it was a great success. We can start using this tomorrow. And we've had this for over 20 years. And hopefully we'll have it for another 20 years.
So, here we are, having coffee, decaf, at our on our newly refinished, refurbished table.
Yes.
I think it came out great.
I am so excited to have our first cup of coffee on the refinished table. Of coasters, of course.
Which, by the way, shout out to our friend Dana. Dana Sardano, Ubuntu Art by Dana, coasters, and our mugs as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got to support the small businesses. So,
And our friends.
The table came out awesome. It's really kind of hard to imagine now that we're sitting here how bad it really looked beforehand, but we lived with it for 20 years like that, so...
Well, it didn't look
was
beat
bad?
up for 20 years.
I stand
Over the
corrected.
years, it got a little
Yes.
beat up from all the use.
Yes, it did.
But we had great memories, like
Yep.
family dinners and
Yep, friends.
dinners with friends and great conversations.
Absolutely.
And games and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So it looks great. We're so happy with it, and we're going to have it for as long as we're around on this planet.
Or until we have to move into like assisted living and have those little tiny apartments.
Well, then
In a couple years.
I could cut it in half.
There you go.
It's a 7-foot table now. We get 3.5 feet, and it'll fit in our new assisted living facility.
There you go. Anyway.
All right. Well, I think we've wrapped this up. So,
I guess that's it. So, I'm Michelle.
and I'm Patrick.
And
We've got this.